Hey everybody, I want to show you an alternative way of animating a tentacle for this project that we're using. So I currently have a tentacle rig. I'm just going to go ahead and open that. I got two different versions. I'll use the long one because it'll probably be a better example. And I'm just opening this because what I actually need is just the tentacle by itself, just the mesh by itself. So I'm going to unlock that, and so now I can select the mesh, and I'm just going to do scan, unbind scan, and then just delete the rig. And this is just now I just have a piece of mesh, right, that looks like a tentacle. So the way this works is I'm going to use a different type of deformer on this. And so again, I'm not making a new rig. What I'm doing is I'm making something that will allow me to animate a piece of mesh in a specific way, right? So it's not necessarily a rig as much as an animation solution. So I'm going to go to the front view, and what I really need first is I need to create a curve. Right? So I'm going to go to my curves here. There's a whole bunch of different types. The one that I usually like to use is this one right here. It's the EP curve. And with that, I'm going to get in here where I can actually see it a little bit better. And I'm going to try to create this like down the center. So I'm going to hold down X so I'm aligning to my grid. Right? And so once I have that one aligned to the grid, I can just hold down Shift, and I should just be able to drag additional EP curve points along that line, and they should, as you're seeing, be lining up pretty good with the 0, 0, 0 axis, I believe. Let me make sure. Yeah. Yes, so that's not perfectly centered. That's all right. So I'm going to hold down Shift and just continue to make new points on this. I may even add a couple of extras, like right through here. And I'll show you why later. And so what you'll see now when I hit enter, if I were to move this out of the way, is that I just have a curve down the middle, right? And I have these control vertices that allow me to work this curve, right? So let's zero this back out and get it back where it was. And I can go to my perspective view, and I'm going to use, under deform, I'm going to use this wire deformer. So if I select that, the first thing it does is tell me to select a shape to deform and press enter. So I'm going to select the tentacle, hit enter. Then it's going to say select a curve. So I'll select that curve, hit enter. And that's actually all I had to do. So what I have now, let me go ahead and lock that tentacle again where you can see it a little bit better, is I have this curve down the middle, and I can right click on this and change these control vertices, right? Looks like nothing's happening. It's because nothing is happening. But if I were to select this and go to the wire deformer that I applied to it and expand out the drop-off distance, you'll see that eventually it affects the tentacle itself, right? So if I have this curve selected now, I should be able to pretty easily rearrange this in whatever orientation I want to, right? So I'm going to go ahead and undo that and set that drop-off distance to something before I've deformed it. So I'll put that back up to, I think I had it at 100. So let's just try 100. Seems like a good place. Oop, 1000's a little much, but that'll work. And so now what I have is these sort of this temporary rig that I can use to manipulate this. Now here's the thing I would do just to make this a little easier. If I needed to move this entire tentacle, I'm going to group that, Control G, and then I can move that group wherever I need to. Well, getting a little bit of a manipulator. No, I'm not. Okay. So I can move this wherever I want to. I can rotate this around, right? So I could do like a do a 90-degree rotation, and I'll show you why this is actually useful. Because if I go in here now and select this curve and right click and get to my control vertices and I adjust this shape, well, why is my, oh, does this need to be with it as well? Oh, but it does. Give me 1 second to put that back where it was. So this also needs to be in the group. And so now if I move this group over, rotate, right, I'm good, get that 90 degrees. And I right click on this, control vertices and adjust it. Right. I can make whatever shape I want out of this, right? But I can also move the tentacle by itself, and I don't really want to move it in this direction. That's going to cause some issues. But this curve is a deformer, and what I can do is move it in and out of that deformer to get it to travel along very specific paths, right? So if I wanted it to like go down into a crevice or something like that, right? Or if I wanted it to crawl over a cylinder, I can do that as well. So let's extend that. And what I want to do with this is adjust. It's probably too big. My EP curve around that. And now I can have this tentacle crawl over that like this. Now the interesting thing about this is these points on the EP curve are animatable, right? So control vertices, I'm just going to go ahead and lock that again where I can see it. Actually, let me do a little bit of a better job on this. So select them both. There we go. Maybe I'll just pull this one back a little bit and then get this one. I'm trying to just select one, but a little bit more like this, so we're getting an interesting flow across it, right? So I can have that, but I can still grab these and set a keyframe here, and maybe change these around a little bit. So maybe do a little bit more like this. And then as a little bit later in the process, bring it back to this one, like 70. Can move these around. Right? And so I have these keyframes now where this is warping like this, and I can animate the mesh sliding in and out of that deformation, right? So if I wanted to get to this point by, say, frame 70, start it back here on frame 1, and I'll get a pretty interesting We'll crawl across there. So that's real time so we can kind of see that. And if we were to just look at these pieces without the deformer, you'll be able to see sort of that effect that we're getting. So, and so it's a pretty nice way of allowing it to a warp to context, but also like curl in and out of different things, right? Because I could also create that curve as a spiral around something, or whatever, and as I'm moving it into it, it will go along that path, right? And of course, I could always add like clusters or something to those to those control points on the curve if I wanted to, in order to control it even more. So again, this isn't a rig; it's more of an animation solution, and all of this is completely keyable. I could go back in here, and if I want that to get closer there, I can add another set of keyframes to it there to where, there you go. And then by here, maybe I want it to be back just a little bit more. Well, so it's just a way of me like being able to control this action, right? And of course, I can move this up and down as well if I wanted to. Now, the last thing I will say though, recognize I'm sliding this only on the y-axis because it's the influence and how far away it is from the curve. And as I move out the backside of it, it's basically like as it gets to the part where the curve is no more, it's not being affected by that deformer, right? And then as I move into the space of the curve, it is. But what that also means is like if I move it in the other direction, I'm gonna get some weird results, right? As I move it out of that space of the influence of it. So you have to be careful, and I'm just animating it on a single axis, but it gives us a couple of options on how we can create this, and then of course when it's time to render it, we can just export this out as an alembic. So hope that helps. I'll talk to y'all soon. Bye.